It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.
Hello, model citizens. Welcome to Humanity Junction. Tonight on Trains and Tech, we're going to talk about a couple of different topics. The first one will be where in the heck have I been for the last 2 weeks? I got an envelope to open. I've got some wood sitting next to me that we'll look at. And then we'll end tonight with a conversation about operations, and it's a continuation of a conversation that we started probably over a month now, and I've been racking my brain trying to figure out how to implement it, and I think I'm starting to get there, so I just thought I'd kind of show where I'm at, and we'll kind of see how things are. I actually have not been down in this room for about 3 weeks. Just who knows why. I just turned the AC on about an hour ago, and it is still very, very warm down here. So I'm doing my best to cool things down so that I can stay nice and cool, and we'll see how things go from there. Might as well start off with, should we open the envelope first? I think we all know how opening the envelope is going to go. So let's just get back to where I've been. I posted a little bit about it last week when I mentioned that I wasn't going to do the show. And basically what happened is that there is a bakery in the neighborhood that is a fantastic bakery, and I love their baguettes. Their baguettes are so good. I can't begin to tell you how good their baguettes are. Unfortunately, due to rent increases and various things, they had to close down the location. But luckily for all of us, they found another location. They reopened, same recipes, same everything. So of course, I grabbed Andy a step. I didn't literally grab him, but I said, Andy, I gotta show you something. So we walked over together because Andy, of course, is a fan of this bakery as well. So this is all Andy's fault because I wouldn't have been there if Andy hadn't been in my near me. But I went in and grabbed a baguette, enjoyed the baguette more than you can imagine, but at some point when I bit into it, you know, baguettes are a little hard, and I kind of scratched my gums a little bit, and that's kind of what I thought it was. But then it like got worse, and it got more painful, and before I knew it, like my teeth on the right side of my mouth were just killing me. Like the whole side of my, like, it just really, really hurt. But then as like time went on, you know, I did not want to go to the dentist, but you know, I'm just kind of waiting. It like seems to be getting better. Things seem to be shifting in the right direction. Eventually my teeth stop hurting, but now it's like my tongue is rubbing against something sharp in the inside of my mouth. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, is it something like healing? Like, is there like a scab on my gums? Like, how does that work? But next thing I know, it hurts to talk because my tongue is scraping against whatever this is in the side of my mouth. It hurts to eat anything. So like if I try and eat, it's just like incredibly painful. One night it hurt so much to eat that it was like hurting my shoulders. That's how much it was hurting to eat. Eventually I gave up. I said, I gotta go to the dentist. When I went to the dentist, I couldn't explain well what was going on. And I don't think I ever really got to the point where I was able to explain what was going on, that they really addressed the actual problem. So I was extremely frustrated because I went to the dentist and I didn't really think whatever was going on was getting solved. But things still kind of were getting a little bit better. So this afternoon, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm just so frustrated. I don't want to skip another stream. I mean, skipping 3 in a week, I just didn't want to do that. So I'm sitting on the couch, I'm creating the thumbnail, I'm posting this up. And while I'm doing that, of course, I can't just leave things alone. So I'm like touching the spot on my gums and I'm like playing with it with my teeth. And I'm, of course, like irritating and agitating it. But what eventually ends up happening is like, I feel this little, like really like sharp, little tiny piece of something in my mouth. And I pull it out. And I realized whatever the sharp thing is that I now have in my hands, that was the sharp thing that was in my gums that was causing all this problem. So here I am, my gums still a little irritated and whatnot, but there's no more scratching, there's no more pain, there's no more nothing. I don't know, was it a piece of baguette stuck in my gums for 3 weeks? I don't know. I don't know. But let's just say I was ecstatic. I knew that with this new found freedom that I'd be able to stream tonight. So yeah, that is a very good way of putting it. It was absolutely the lion and the mouse with the thorn in my foot. So definitely a dental miracle. It wasn't any metal. I think it was just like a hard piece of the crust or something. Just, you know, when you get older, you don't eat as well as you used to, I guess. And I don't know. So Ronald says stop eating the baguette. Let's talk about that next, shall we? As some people may notice, especially those of you that know me in person, I have not been growing vertically. I've been growing horizontally. And a couple of years ago, I did kind of a health challenge where we did a percentage of weight loss, right? So if you're, 200 pounds and you lose, 20 pounds, that's whatever that percentage is. And I should have picked some numbers that I could possibly have figured that out. We calculated percentage lost. So what I did is I have a Discord, and I created a channel in the Discord that is going to be the health challenge. And somebody already mentioned a great idea. So instead of just doing percentage of weight lost, what we're also going to do is an activity category. So if you don't want to like track your weight, just track your activity, and just join the Discord, post up in the thread. Worst case scenario, you get a little bit healthier. Best case scenario, I'll figure out some prizes or something to go along with it. So my thought is it'll run for 3 months. September 1st will be the official kickoff date, and we'll go basically to about January 1st. So leading up to the new year, 3 months. As you can see, Cameron from Caboose 121 already posted up a little aerobics GIF. So yeah, if you wanna track steps, track steps. If you want to track miles biking, you can track miles biking. If you want to track percentage of weight lost, feel free to track percentage of weight lost. I believe it was Ron Moen that won the last challenge I held, but I didn't do so well during the last challenge. So I figured time for a little bit of accountability. And if this group is nothing but accountable, we always hold people to what they've said they're going to do. The only thing I ask is if you do join the Discord, we all like giving each other a hard time, but let's try and keep that one channel or whatever it's called on Discord, positive, and we'll go from there. JD, I would love ice cream is absolutely one of my favorite cheat foods. The more stuff in it, the better. Like, Ben and Jerry's with all the stuff. Definitely one of my favorites. Bread's another big one. No cheating, Lynn. You can't cheat and do another round of radiation. We won't have that. So if you're going to participate, you can't do that again. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So check it out on Discord, and we'll go from there. Let's take a look at this. What this is on the bench is something that I talked about right before I left. This is a package that got sent to New York and then got sent back to California and then was resent back out to New York, and I finally got it. So I should have had it there. Should have had it here weeks ago, but it just arrived. If I take the contents of this envelope and $5 to $8 to the local Starbucks, I will be able to get myself a coffee. Outside of that, it's just something fun. A couple people have posted about it on Facebook recently. I even talked about it a couple of weeks ago here on this channel, but it shows there's some interesting stamps on it. But let's see what we got in here. The top thing is a letter, so we'll put that away. because it has my address on it. And so this is the OPSIG AP. So it's the Operations Special Interest Group. It is a part of the NMRA. You can go online, opsig-ap.org, and you can just sign up online. So if you're in operations, this is kind of a fun little thing. Congrats on being a part of our program and making it a success. First and foremost, is anything is incorrect or missing, blah, 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 blah. Secondly, we hope you wear the buttons, display your certificates, and encourage others to join this initiative. So I can now go to op sessions and I can wear my pins. And I think Ed O'Connell, who's in here, has some pins. I think Don Iris, who's in here, has some pins. Paul, did you ever sign up yet and get your pins? I am not a ninja. I did not get a ninja. I did get 3 pins, and it looks like they're stuck to the cardboard. I have no idea how to get stuff out of the cardboard. Looks like I need a knife tool. Always prepared, never prepared. So Don has 6 pins already. Paul says he doesn't qualify anything yet. Ed says can't be a ninja yet. The C&E exam isn't out yet. Yeah, I'm hoping to get that C&E exam. I don't necessarily need the ninja one. I just thought it was kind of fun, but I would like the C&E one. The C&E one stands for conductor and engineer. So let's see, which ones did I get already? Let's see. So the pins that I got are OPSIG Boomer, and I think we talked about that the other day when I pulled out this book, because I did not know what a boomer is in relationship to railroading, but I got this one. I'm very fortunate. I'm going to head out to Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota at the end of the month. So I will be increasing my time on the road, and I already messed up my button. I cut it with a knife. I'll have to glue that back together. See that? Already messing things up. I got the host one because, well, I've got a layout here, so I've got the host one, and then I've got traffic manager. And I guess you could probably argue whether I really deserve traffic manager or not, because I am still changing things on this layout. Every moment I'm changing things. So, and I just noticed my traffic manager pin, the pin is in the wrong direction. I don't know. It's all good. Let's see if I can cut the certificates out of here. Again, I think this is just something fun, just something to kind of support the OPSIG. The OPSIG is $10 a year, which, you know, yeah, I think it's the best thing going in model railroading, especially if you're into operations. As Don says, he'll help me with dispatcher. I am sure he will help others with dispatcher as well. Dispatcher is one of those things that basically I'm just afraid of. Like, there are a couple positions when you're operating that you can like really like screw up other people's enjoyment. And I feel like dispatcher is one of those. So we'll see. Here we go. Here's my boomer certificate, and they used my full name, and they said has hereby bestowed upon. Gotta love those big fancy words, for successfully meeting all of the criteria for this award as set forth in the program. Paul Weiss being the chairman. So there's boomer, there's host, there's traffic manager. So the good thing is I've got all this free wall space I don't have any free wall space. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'm going to put these. But I've got them. I can, you know what I just realized? I don't even know where I have somewhere. I have my AP electrical from the NMRA, but I don't know where that's mounted as well. So I guess I just have more things to mount. Dennis says back of the door. Dennis, you obviously have never seen the back of my door. Yeah, they're pretty fancy. Ed's hoping to earn dispatcher during the convention. Yeah, Andy was asking, what did he say, Yardmaster also? I have not been a Yardmaster enough to get the Yardmaster one. I am hoping to be able to get that in Minneapolis. While Yardmaster is another one of those positions where you can completely screw up everybody else's enjoyment. I think that's one that is more in my wheelhouse to be successful. Yeah, Paul, I don't know. So, you probably did this unintentionally, but you started your comment out with HA. If you put all of my initials together, it's even funnier. I don't know why my parents did that to me, but they did. Dennis says he screws up the enjoyment of his own railroad all by himself all the time. I added the all by himself. If you don't know, Dennis from Otter Creek in Rio Grande is going to be having a big event at his house next spring. Everyone that wants to come help him work on his railroad and then operate on his layout. Keep a lookout for the invite. He's not actually doing that event. I'm just pushing him to try and invite people to hang out on his layout. So, Gail, don't worry, Gail. We're not actually all coming. And when I say we all aren't coming, I'm probably gonna come ambush Dennis at some point. But so. Paul, your name is Paul Stamp, and you say your initials are B as in Bob S. Paul starts with a P, so your initials are actually PS, not BS. If you don't know, Paul is a prototypical model railroader, so I usually call him Lance. Even if his name was Lance, that would be LS. So I don't know where the BS comes from, but yeah, I am definitely I'm definitely someone that knows a lot about BS. And Paul thinks that I can remember things from 1 minute to the next. So you know, I'm lucky if I can remember what I did 30 seconds ago, let alone a conversation we may have had a while ago. Anyway, let's get on to the next thing. Wood glue and tape. I've done it before. I'm going to do it again. I was going to do this last week before I canceled the stream, but I didn't get around to it. But basically, we're going to start doing some model railroading with only these two items. Well, and some wood. I was going to call the live stream, what would you do for a Klondike module? These are T-Track modules from Sean at Klondike, KLAWNDYKE. And keep an eye out for some stuff in September that's going to be posted about this. But what's fun about T-Track modules is this is what you need to put them together, and this is all you need. You don't need nothing else. That's all you need. Paul, if you want to put a link to anything, if I can figure this out, here we go. Here, let's do that. So I think Paul can now post a link if he wants, which is probably dangerous, but I'm doing it anyway. Thomas, I do think that they should have one for the best snacks at an op session. I think that would be a good certificate to have. One certificate that they did add is a certificate for professional railroaders, which I thought was pretty cool as well, just to kind of recognize that there are actual railroaders as well. Dennis, you didn't miss it yet. You know how this works, Dennis. You've been here to enough of these streams to know how it works. So, yeah, best snacks, I like to have animal crackers because I like to think everything around here is a little bit of a circus. But, yeah, it is what it is. So for Dennis, I guess we should start talking about operations. I don't know how long this is going to take. This could be a 5-second conversation and we can all go home and go to sleep. Or somebody might find this interesting and we'll go from there. Yeah, Thomas, I don't think it's whether you consider yourself a professional. I think it's more of whether the people that write the paycheck and it actually doesn't bounce. But yes, always stalling, always dragging things out because I really just don't have anything interesting to say. Here's a question. Here's a thought. I'm going to throw something out there real quick. What would you think about, instead of, like, some people still do shows where they bring up other guests and you can see the guest. I was thinking instead of doing that, to maybe have just a call-in show, so it's a little bit more like a radio show. I've been watching some YouTube channels that do live streams that instead of like using StreamYard and like bringing people up and whatnot and so forth, which has a certain risk, just bringing random people up. I was thinking maybe of doing like some sort of like, hey, like this week we're gonna talk about your favorite donut flavor or something like that, and then we'll give people the call-in number, and people would I don't know what Andy just said. Andy says I was a love guest and a call-in guest on this show long ago. This has never been a love channel. We've never done it. It might be a little risky, but it's voice only. It's audio only. So, it's less risky than having somebody with a camera up. But I just thought it might be something interesting. So I'm just throwing it out there. Is it worth the time for me to figure out how to technically do it? And yes, you are essentially all guests in the chat, but it would give you an idea or an opportunity to, I guess, argue your point a little bit more, right? So you can come up here and say, powdered donuts are the best donuts. And I might say, you're crazy. Nobody should have powdered donuts at an op session, because then you get the powder all over all of the trains and all of the layout. And you might say, but powdered donuts are so good that it's worth it, and you should just have wet wipes, and you should not worry about it. And then I might say something like, but even with wet wipes, even if you keep the donuts in the hallway, there are still people that can't behave themselves and can't keep their dirty hands off your trains, no matter how many times you tell people don't touch, the trains with your hands that are dirty. And then the other person might say, but white powdered donuts, the white powder would act as weathering powder. So if you have enough white donuts at an op session, you can easily have all of your cars weathered by the end of your first op session. And then I might say something, but my layout's set in New York City, so the weathering might be, wouldn't be like white powdery. It would be more of like a darker, like soot color. So, you know, having white weathering, it wouldn't just work out very well. And then you might say, but, you know, if you start with a base of white, then anything you add on top of it will pop. So you can do like multi-layers of white and different colors. And you guys can't hear that, but there's something beeping behind me. I'm charging one of my tablets behind me, and the tablet just started like going beep 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 beep. I don't know what I was saying that bothered the tablet, but obviously the tablet thought that I was going on some sort of tangent and getting completely lost. And but yeah, you know, we can do NCE versus Digitrax. We can do soundtracks versus ESU, and just all for fun. You know, Apple versus PC. I don't know, just, you know, just Dennis, could be. Not pre-rehearsed, but that would be pretty good. Oh, speaking about pre-rehearsed, what did I just say? I have no idea what I just said. But if you go to, speaking about rehearsed, if you go to a YouTube channel called M&M Rails, and let me see if I can find the YouTube channel. Here it is. And here is the video. And this video came out recently. I don't know how to get rid of this. How do I get rid of this side thing? Well, anyway. Oh yeah, that's that. Tighten in. Okay, so here's a video that Mark from M&M Rails did. If you watch this video all the way to the end, there's a little bit of a guest at the end. So let me see if I can figure out how to share this. Yeah, I posted the video in my community page, but if you missed it, there's a link. If you don't know Mark does some pretty funny things, and apparently he's listening, and I didn't even know he was listening. Hopefully he won't give me a what is that called, a copyright strike for playing some of his video. But yeah, check it out. Andy says all you need for the pre-call option is an answering machine. If you want to do live callers, there are a bunch of talk radio interfaces that support a variety of interaction, easy peasy. Yeah, I gotta just look into it. I know there's definitely things out there that I could use and go from there. Joey from Late Night says, you know, there's a medication for controlling flow. He's probably talking about Flowmax, but what I'm talking about when I talk about flow is I'm talking about Finding Flow by Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. If you don't know who Mihail Csikszentmihalyi is, I recommend going and checking out his book, Finding Flow. Why? Why are we talking about this? We're talking about this because this is something I think about a lot, especially with model railroading. Not just with operations, though. The way Mihail Csikszentmihalyi talks about flow is it is the state that you get into when the difficulty matches the interest, essentially, or the task, I guess you can say. So he has this whole little square and where you fit him. Anyway, so it's kind of like with model railroading, let's say you're building a structure and the structure is extremely difficult to build and you don't have a lot of skill. It'll be a frustrating thing to build. Whereas if you're building a structure that is a lot of skill and you have a lot of skill, then when you're building that structure, you may find a state of flow. And that state of flow, we've probably all experienced it to a certain extent. Sorry, I got I got distracted because I read a comment that I thought was just so funny. Paul said, if you pronounce that name right, I'm very impressed. As long as there's nobody here that actually knows how his name is pronounced, I'm going to stick with, yes, I'm pronouncing it correctly. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing it correctly. That's how I've been saying it, but if you look at his last name, there are a lot of letters. Chezent Michaeli, I don't know. But yeah, Joey talks about that state quite often, that flow state. And I think about that a lot with model railroading. When I get into a groove with wiring, that is one of the things that I really gets me into the flow state. Just certain aspects of the hobby really kind of, like engage me in that way, and they draw me in, they give me interest. And that's what I found with operations, is when I'm operating on my layout or on somebody else's layout, I get into this state where when things are flowing well, when things are moving, it's just really, really enjoying it. And JD, there you go. Yeah, in the zone would be another really great way to say it. So what I started thinking about, based on our conversation from, yeah, Joey, I'll be honest, Joey, I say your last name as little as possible because I'm not 100% sure how to say it. But anyway, I just call you late night. Everybody knows you as late night. Why bother? So back to flow state. So we were talking about how my layout operates, and kind of thinking about the way the layout flows, like literally, like the way the cars move and the way you move the cars. Dennis says, is flow something that can be learned, or does it just happen or not? So flow is something that just happens when your training matches the challenge. So, people talk about a runner's high, right? So it's like you're running a marathon and you get to that point where your training and everything comes together and you're just running. And you get into that place of just like flow, like things just kind of happen. Sorry, step away. Where did the Finding Flow article appear? Just search for Finding Flow and it comes up. Not Finding Flow FLO, but Finding Flow FLOW. That's a little bit of an inside joke for my dad, which only he will understand, and everybody else will wonder what in the world I am talking about. So what I first did is I said, how does my layout currently operate? I'd say there is, but I'm curious on his takes. Is there a difference between flow and hyperfixation? Yeah, so flow is not ADHD. Boy, that's a great question. That is definitely outside of my research on the topic. My guess is that people with ADHD definitely get into flow states, but I think too, there's like that other side of it. There's kind of the side where the flow becomes obsessive compulsive, and it's no longer a flow state. I think when you're in it, you know it. I think when you go past it, I think you, yeah, and that's a good point. What Roy says too is if you have ADHD, you spontaneously enter flow things you didn't plan on. That can be very true too. But yeah, that's a really interesting question though, about the relationship between things like ADHD and flow. I don't know. When that book was written, let me see if I can bring this back up again. This book was written in, looks like 1998. I believe, if I know my DSM-4, which I don't at all, and I am completely not the person to really talk about this, but I believe in 1998, ADHD was still called ADD. So I don't know, or at least I don't remember him going into the research. Oh, and I just realized, can you see it here? Here, wait, is that here? Apparently that's how you pronounce his name. Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. See, so I was pronouncing it completely wrong. But if nobody mentioned it. All right, so back to flow state. So this is, that's funny. I like that, John. Yeah, Dennis, that is true. That is true. So the first thing that I did is I drew out all of the different areas in my layout. I'm using Excel, by the way. I watched a 10-minute video on how to build flowcharts in Excel, and this is what came out of that 10-minute video. So over here on this side, these are my interchange locations. I have a north interchange and a south interchange. The way things currently flow, everything kind of flows through the yard at this point, and this is primarily why I created this, because that's going to start changing. And I think the reason I built this, and this is kind of answering Bob's question, is that this isn't so much for the operators. This is so that I can understand prototypical railroad movements, right? I am not I'm not a prototypical railroader. I came to model railroading as models, as toys. My dad had Lionel trains when I was growing up. 3-rail was trains. So prototypical railroading is new to me. So I'm still convinced model railroading is gamification. People that say model railroading isn't just a game, I get it. You're counting the rivets. But I think there is a game part of it. But I think my current layout is so focused on the game side of it that I'm missing some of the prototypical elements. So my goal is to add a little bit of that in. Dennis just asked if the colors mean anything. Yes, they do. If you operate on my layout, all of the car cards are color-coded. Anything going to Selkirk is blue. 69th Street is red. All the Riverside stuff is green. Manhattanville is purple. So that the colors relate to the colors on the thing. Yeah, whatever. I think it's funny to chat about Paul's beating prototype related concepts into me tangentially, even though we're freelancing. Joey Paul and John Farrington came up with a freelance railroad that they are making prototypical, I guess you can say. So it is like, this is freelance, but I'm trying to bring in some of the elements. Okay, so let me get through this flowchart really quickly. I'll try not to get more distracted. All right, so the interchange stuff is over here. The yards are here. And then from here over, these are all industries. And the way this currently works is all of the loaded cars move from the left side to the right side, and then all of the empty cars move from the left side to the right side. So what I have, yes, not this week, but yes, we definitely could. And that would be fun. So what I have is I've got all the basically the lines. Everything is a double-ended arrow, basically show the way things move. Currently, everything from Selkirk goes to this yard. Everything from 69th Street goes from this yard and back and forth. Cars that will travel between the two yards. And then each of the yards will feed the industries that are fed from that yard. And when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about like, well, why can't a train go from Selkirk to 69th Street and have it be a bridge train? Why can't the Selkirk trains go to Riverside Yard first and then go to Croton Harmon Yard? And then Don Iris said, what if the Selkirk train comes in and it's got, you know, a couple cars from Manhattanville, and on its way from Selkirk to Riverside, it drops the cars in Manhattanville? And I was kind of like, I don't know, is that the way it would happen? Like, I thought that everything would just go through the yards. And Don Iris at least said no, like that's like a road train might pass an industry or an industrial area and drop cars. So have I spoken to any actual railroad workers? There's actually at least one in the chat right now. There might be more than one, but there's at least one railroader here. I'm still learning. I guess that's the other thing. I don't know how prototypical I want all this to be. And I guess that's a little bit what I'm trying to figure out as well. So this is how it currently runs, right? So one of the things I did is I said, okay, let's take a look at what if there's some different movement over on this side here, right? So this line here, right? I have trains that might go from Selkirk to 69th Street or 69th Street to Selkirk. So they do no work on my layout. All they do is pass through my layout. They go from one end of the layout to the other, and that's all they do. Maybe they don't do anything else. So it's kind of neat to, you know, to kind of see that here as a possibility that maybe one of the trains goes here. I do also have still the arrow drawn in between here. 69th Street, because it's a car float, it doesn't have a locomotive to it. So there would need to be at least a local switcher pulling things off the car float. And I think the only place that would really pick up a road locomotive would be in the yard. So I don't know if a train would actually go from 69th Street north, but I do think a road train could go from north to south. So I still gotta figure that out. But one of the things that I did here is I said, okay, what if a train followed this green line right here, and the train went from Selkirk down to Riverside Yard? Let's say it dropped off 3 cars at Riverside Yard and picked up 3 cars at Riverside Yard. So it would drop off 3 cars that, you know, need to go somewhere else. And then that train, that road train, would continue on with maybe 3 cars it picked up at Riverside Yard. and it would bring all the cars up to Croton Harmon Yard, and let's say it would drop all of the cars there, right? Because it's the train coming from off layout from the interchange, bringing loaded trains in. And then in the yard, the road crew would then pick up an outgoing train to go north. So I think, maybe one of the trains, and somebody mentioned this the other day, like that I'm thinking about things as moving cars as opposed to how the trains would move. So I'm trying to like do this where I'm like, okay, so the train goes from Selkirk to Riverside, maybe exchanges cars, maybe doesn't, then goes to Croton Harmon Yard, maybe exchanges cars, maybe doesn't, and then goes back off the layout. And maybe that's a train that somebody runs, does that. Don says put a dedicated switcher at the car float. If I have a dedicated switcher at the car float, would that switcher take cars off the float and bring them anywhere but the yard to go onto let's say a GP or a road switcher? Would the car float switcher go, out to other industries? My thought is no. The reason my thought was no, and I could be completely wrong. Like, I have no idea what I'm talking about here. But my thought was no, because if it needed to do work at the car float and it was out on the road delivering cars, then it wouldn't be. And then also you're paying your crew two different rates. You're paying your crew the yard rate for work in the float, and then you're paying them the yard rate to go out as well. Paul says, seems to me that it wouldn't. Joey says, I would imagine the yard switcher is run by the crew at the docks. That's what I'm kind of thinking as well. But again, I'm not really sure. So my other thought though too is like, and what I'm kind of planning on doing is just creating here, here's another copy, right? So I'm going to delete all these lines and say, okay, if I can have a locomotive pick up cars and bring them somewhere and drop them, where should cars, like start and go on the layout? And then I kind of figure, I can kind of start then drawing lines between the different things, and then I could label it, train 234, and and go from there. Don says, put those cars on a storage track and let the interchange crew pick up the outbound and drop off inbounds to the float. And that's basically what I do. So when I say drop them off at the yard, what I'm really talking about, I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see. Okay, so here's the car float right here. So here's let's say the switcher for the car float. So what this switcher would do is it would either put the car float cars on this track, which is the yard lead for Riverside Yard, and basically swap cars between there, or it would drop the cars. Is that gonna work? Nope. Is this it? Yeah, that kind of works. So these are arrival departure tracks. So either the car float would drop the cars on the arrival departure tracks for the yard, and then the yard would grab them from there, or they would drop them on the yard lead, around over here, and swap them from there. So in my flowchart, what I'm basically then saying though is everything that goes from 69th Street goes. When I say Riverside Yard, I guess I'm talking about the Riverside Yard crew, not necessarily the Riverside Yard track. Yeah, I'd have to pay money to get to Heath's Place just to operate it. I've never paid it yet. Wait, you pay your operators? No. Does your map reflect the layout? Kind of. The map reflects who owns the industries, right? So all of this up here is owned by Human City Junction. Everything down here is owned by, well, actually, including the car float, everything down here is Riverside Transfer Short Line. It's not exactly how they're all laid out on the layout, but this is, you know, it's done by ownership. It's who owns the trackage that would be delivering the cars. Drop them off at the yard. Sounds like you. Yeah, I know. I guess you would need snacks. What about thinking like a business? Schedule assignments delivering to customers providing services. So the way I think about the industries on the layout is that for the most part, the majority of them are LCL customers. So the customer in Manhattanville that I'm delivering to is going to get a box car that kind of have mixed items in it. So they'll unload it, they'll have all the mixed items, and they will then do the local deliveries to the they'll do the local deliveries via truck. So a lot of the industries on the layout are, terminal storage, freight building, types of things. I could do, these guys are talking about t-shirts. I could do vests that people wear. The problem is, though, is because of the number of people in the room, you might switch during an op session from working for HCJX versus RTSL. My head would hurt less if it reflected the layout. Well, but here's the thing, Paul. What it reflects is, as William Bly was saying, is it reflects the business of the layout. It reflects the the ownership of it, I guess, which is why I guess I'm trying to it kind of does do both. I mean if you, so from from here across, that is, if you go down the main line, that is how you pass things. The only one that's kind of a little bit out of order is this, because it's just all in the same area. It doesn't go anywhere. And I thought about, hats too, different colored hats, or whatever. It's not a competition. Again, we are, this is collaborative work. So what I guess I'm trying to figure out, and this is where I guess I'm hoping to work this out and get thoughts from other people, but when a train comes from Selkirk onto my layout, right, let's say it is a road train, so let's say it is like CSX is bringing cars onto my class 3 or whatever it is short line, right? So coming out of Selkirk is a class 1 locomotive. It is on class 1 tracks up to Croton Harmon Yard. Everything from Croton Harmon Yard down to 69th Street Interchange, all of that is short line, I think it's class 3 tracks. So would the CSX locomotive coming out of Selkirk, would it run down to Riverside Yard? Like if the train coming out of Selkirk was in let's say an SD70 Ace coming out of Selkirk, 6-axle locomotive. Currently, I don't allow 6-axle locomotives on the short line because the tracks don't support 6-axle locomotives. But because it's a road train coming out of CSX, it might come down with, you know, an SD locomotive. So would that locomotive, let's say, go all the way to the IRT powerhouse and drop the cars from Selkirk all the way to the IRT powerhouse? I don't know the answer. Scott is saying, hey, Paul answered your question on my recent video. Let's see if I can find Paul's question. I don't know what Paul's question was. I don't know. I don't know what Paul's question was. Oh, here. Hey, Scott. Apparently that's Paul's question. Mark, I have a new addition. You need to wait and see, but you can't see it now. So yeah, I think Don left. Oh, it wasn't in this stream. A question Paul asked in another world, another space, another time. Scott is answering in the chat, so feel free to not know what we're talking about. So I don't know. I'm gonna build some train movement, let's say, and I'm gonna print them out, and I'm gonna take them to people a lot smarter than me, like Don, and I'm gonna say, Don, would an SD locomotive, let's see, I don't know if you saw this question, would an SD locomotive coming from Selkirk Interchange go to the IRT powerhouse over Class 3 track? I don't know, you know, I don't know. Oh, there you go. If you search Finding Flow and ADHD, apparently you'll find some articles on it. So, so Don, expect in your inbox to see some versions of train movements, to ask if they make sense, if they would happen. Paul Stamp says, in this description, the CSS locomotive would likely drop at the yard, but not likely at the powerhouse. Right, which kind of, I guess, then goes back to, like, that's this, right? This is where all of the 6-axle big locomotives from Selkirk drop at Croton Harmon, and then all the GPs and the local road switchers do all of the switching in here. Which kind of then gets back to then this is how it would work. I don't know. I don't know. I gotta. My brain's hurting. Luckily, my mouth is not hurting. If you got here late and don't know what I'm talking about with my mouth hurting, you missed a lot. Don says that would all depend on the railroad track conditions, if they can handle the heavy loads. My story again basically says that the short line was purchased from the New York Central in 1968, and they kept it running as a short line, and that they did not fix the track up to Class 1 standards. So my story is that the locomotives coming down from Selkirk, unless they sent smaller locomotives, and maybe there would be a train that would send a GP instead of an SD, but my story is that the big heavy loco is pulling a bigger train. The trains coming from Selkirk down to Croton are 10 cars long. Everything within the short line is 8 cars long. So not only does it go from like SDs to GPs and RSs and C40-2s, it also goes from 10-car trains to 8-car trains. So I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. From the city that never sleeps. Farewell, model citizens.
It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.